Manfred's world had just been shattered, 3 days after losing both of their parents in a car accident. His sister, Isabelle's cruel words hit him like a storm. On crutches with a broken leg, he stood at the foot of the stairs as she kicked his only suitcase into the mud. She handed him a plastic gift card, refusing even to look him in the eye. Have you ever felt like a burden to the people you've given everything? For growing up in the Sterling family, I learned early on that the world didn't revolve around me. Isabelle was the star, the one who drew all the attention, the one who lived for the spotlight. She was the firework, always dazzling, always demanding attention. I wasn't like that. I was the one behind the scenes, always working in the background, doing what was needed to keep things running. And while Isabelle spent her days perfecting her Instagram posts and chasing the next thrill, I was in the office, holding everything together. Our parents were barely holding on to the family business, and it was up to me to keep it from falling apart. Isabelle never seemed to understand the weight of what I was doing. She didn't see the late nights I spent hunched over spreadsheets, calculating every cent, making sure our parents' bills were paid and that the business didn't collapse under the pressure. No, she was too busy posting pictures from glamorous vacations, sipping champagne on yachts, living a life that seemed so far removed from the reality I was drowning in. She was so wrapped up in her own world, so consumed by her desire for luxury, that she couldn't see the sacrifices I was making to keep things from completely falling apart. But that's the way it was in the Sterling family. Isabelle was the one who was always noticed, always praised for her beauty and charm, while I was the one who quietly worked behind the scenes, keeping things running. I was the ventilation system, vital but invisible, and that invisibility took its toll. I spent 5 years cleaning up the messes Isabelle left behind. I covered for her when she drained the company's accounts to fund her lifestyle. I dealt with the IRS audits and negotiated with vendors to keep them from pulling their contracts. I was the one who spent sleepless nights balancing the books, making sure we could make payroll while Isabelle was out living the high life, oblivious to the chaos she was causing. I remember one night in particular. It was 2 years ago, and I was staring at a spreadsheet, my eyes burning from exhaustion, knowing that we were just 3 days away from missing payroll for our 40 employees. I had already drained my 401k to cover the gap, and I was at my wit's end. Then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Isabelle. She had posted a photo from a yacht in Tulum, holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, "Manifesting abundance." It was the final straw. Here I was, struggling to keep the business afloat, pouring my savings into a sinking ship, and she was out there flaunting her lifestyle like everything was fine. I thought about all the sacrifices I'd made, all the times I'd gone without to make sure the bills were paid, and I realized that she didn't even care. She was living in a world of delusion, unaware or uncaring about the wreckage she was leaving behind. But I couldn't scream. I couldn't lash out. I had been conditioned to stay silent, to swallow my anger and my resentment. Because in our family, silence was my role. Isabelle was the loud one. She was the one who got all the attention, the one who always had something to say, even if it was something shallow or self-serving. Me, I was invisible. The only time I was noticed was when I wasn't doing my job, when I wasn't fixing things. But that silence, that invisibility, it ate at me. It left scars that I couldn't ignore anymore. The resentment between Isabelle and me had been building for years. I had given everything to keep the family business alive, to make sure we didn't lose everything our parents had worked so hard for. And she had taken it all for granted. She didn't understand the pressure I was under, the sacrifices I was making. To her, the business was just a means to fund her lifestyle, to keep her living in luxury. She didn't care about the long hours, the endless stress, the constant pressure to keep the wheels turning. All she cared about was her image, her status, her next vacation. And every time she posted a new photo, every time she flaunted her wealth, it was like a slap in the face to me. I wanted to scream, to throw everything in her face, to tell her how much she had hurt me, how much she had taken from me. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had spent my whole life being the quiet one, the one who always took the back seat, the one who never got credit for the work he did. And even though I was angry, even though I felt completely abandoned, I knew that I couldn't let my emotions control me. I had to keep going. I had to keep fixing things, because that's what I did. That's who I was, the invisible one. But the more I worked, the more I sacrificed, the more I realized how much I resented Isabelle. She didn't deserve the life she had. She didn't deserve the attention, the admiration. She hadn't earned it. She had been handed everything while I had to fight for every inch. And the worst part, she didn't even realize what I was doing for her. She didn't care. She never cared. I was just a tool to her, someone who kept the wheels turning while she played at being a star. And that hurt more than anything. It was a constant reminder that to Isabelle, I was nothing more than a means to an end. It was in the sterile, quiet hum of the hospital that the full weight of everything hit me. Our parents lay in the ACU, hooked up to machines that beeped in a rhythmic, eerie unison. Their bodies were there, but their minds gone. The doctors had already told us that there was nothing more to be done. All we could do now was wait for them to slip away. Yet here I was, in a wheelchair, my broken legs still in a cast, trying to fill out forms that no one should ever have to sign for their parents. The do not resuscitate forms. I held the pen in my trembling hand, unsure of whether I could even bring myself to make the decision to end their suffering. It wasn't about mercy, it was about the finality of it. But this was what we had to do. And then there was Isabelle. I thought I could ignore her. I thought maybe she would finally show some semblance of compassion, some recognition of the tragedy we were enduring together. But I quickly realized as she strode through the hospital hallway with that look of practiced detachment on her face, that compassion was the furthest thing from her mind. She wasn't concerned with our parents. She wasn't concerned with anything but herself. She was pacing back and forth, her heels clicking sharply against the tile floor, talking to someone on the phone. A man in a gray suit, someone I recognized as Mr. Vance, the family attorney. I thought he was the one person who would help us navigate the mess our parents had left behind. He was the one who had written their wills, who had been a constant in our lives for as long as I could remember. And now, he was here trying to calm Isabelle down, but Isabelle wasn't having any of it. As I sat there trying to hold it together, trying to process the weight of the moment, I could hear her voice, rising shrill and frantic. She was screaming at Mr. Vance, demanding that he do something to make things happen. He was trying to explain calmly and patiently that the trust funds were frozen until the death certificates were issued, that there was a legal process we had to follow. But Isabelle wasn't listening to any of it. "I don't care about your stupid process," she spat. "I need a deposit for the venue for the wake." Do you know how hard it is to book the Rainier Club on short notice? I need a lawyer who can get things done, not some dinosaur who still follows the rules. Her voice echoed through the hospital hallway, cold and detached, as if our parents' passing was nothing more than an inconvenience to her. I remember feeling a wave of disbelief. How could she be so heartless? Our parents were dying, and she was worried about booking a venue for a wake. I wanted to scream at her to tell her how much she was failing us, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed by my own emotions, by the shock of what I was witnessing. Isabelle was a stranger to me in that moment. She wasn't my sister. She was someone else entirely, and that's when I realized the truth. Isabelle wasn't just a reckless, spoiled woman who lived in her own world. She was a liability in every sense of the word. She was a predator, a user, someone who cared only about herself and her image. In that moment, I saw her for what she truly was. I wasn't just dealing with the fallout of her actions anymore. I wasn't just watching her burn through everything she touched. I was watching her destroy the last shred of decency that existed between us. She wasn't just a selfish sister. She was the reason our family was falling apart. She was the reason we were here in this sterile, empty space, watching our parents slip away while she stood there like a puppet master, trying to pull strings to make her world look perfect. Mr. Vance looked helpless. I could see the confusion on his face as he tried to reason with her to bring her back to reality. But Isabelle wasn't interested in reality. She was interested in control. She was interested in keeping up appearances and making sure that the world saw her as the one who was managing everything, even if everything was already falling apart. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the way she was frantically searching for a solution to her problems, while completely ignoring the bigger picture. She didn't care about our parents. She didn't care about anything except herself. The words she spoke next confirmed it all. She turned to me, her eyes cold and calculating. "Look at you, Manfred. You're just sitting there like a piece of furniture. I'm the one who has to manage this family's image. You're just there to clean up the mess I make. Don't look at me like that. I'm the one who has to deal with this." It hit me like a freight train. She wasn't even pretending to care anymore. She was so wrapped up in her own little world, so obsessed with maintaining her image that she had completely lost sight of what was truly important. Our parents were dying, and all she could think about was herself. She had become a parasite, feeding off the family's reputation, draining everything she could from it while I was left to pick up the pieces. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel rage. What I felt was clarity, a cold, sharp clarity. I wasn't going to fight her. I wasn't going to scream at her. I wasn't going to give in to the rage that had been building up inside me for years. I was going to act. I was going to take control of my own life, my own future. And that meant making a choice. It meant doing something that would finally put an end to the madness. I looked at Isabelle, really looked at her for the first time in years. She wasn't my sister anymore. She was a liability, and in my world, liabilities were dealt with. You didn't argue with them. You liquidated them. You made sure they were no longer a threat, and that was exactly what I was going to do. I was done being invisible. I was done being the one who picked up the pieces. From that moment on, I was going to take what was mine, and I was going to make sure Isabelle never took anything from me again. It was the cold, lifeless night at the Starlight Motel, the only place I could afford after Isabelle had thrown me out with nothing but the clothes on my back. The room smelled like stale cigarette smoke and bleach, and the radiator rattled like a dying engine. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mud-soaked funeral dress draped over the back of the chair, drying in the weak heat from the radiator. I was stuck. Desperate. I had nowhere to go and nowhere to turn. My sister had given me $50 in a plastic gift card and discarded me like a broken toy, and yet that card, something so insignificant, held the key to everything. It wasn't much, but it was the only lead I had left. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, my stomach gnawing at me, I couldn't help but think about how far I had fallen. I had been the one who saved the family business, the one who fought tooth and nail to keep everything from crumbling. And now, here I was, stuck in this grim motel room, eating peanut butter crackers from the vending machine with no clue what the next step was. That gift card, if you could even call it that, had become my obsession. The morning light brought nothing but more questions. I was awake before the sun, and hunger gnawed at my insides. I stared at the card Isabelle had thrown at me, wondering what it even was. I had barely given it a second thought last night, too, consumed with everything else. But now, in the cold silence of the morning, I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. It didn't feel like a normal gift card. There was no magnetic strip, no Visa logo. Just a thick piece of white plastic with a generic Blue Mountain logo and a handwritten code on the back, 1995. My birth year. It sent a shiver down my spine. Why would Isabelle give me this? The uncertainty gnawed at me. It didn't make sense. But then something clicked. That logo, it wasn't just some random design. I had seen it before. My father had used that logo. It was from a storage facility, a place. I had once seen him go to a place where he kept private documents, important ones. The kind of things he didn't want anyone to know about, and that's when I knew what I had to do. I didn't have the luxury of waiting around. I couldn't sit idly by, watching the world slip away. So I spent my last $12 on an Uber ride to the facility. The trip wasn't far, but it felt like an eternity. Every bump in the road sent a jolt of pain up my fractured leg, but I had no choice. I had to do this. The thought of what could be waiting for me kept me going. When I finally arrived, the building was as dull and unwelcoming as I remembered: gray concrete walls, a cold industrial vibe that matched my mood. The facility was almost empty. The air thick with the smell of stale paper and metal. I had to get inside, even if it meant dragging myself in on crutches. I could barely feel my leg anymore. The pain had become so familiar, but I pushed through it. The floor was slick, and with every step, my crutches scraped the ground, sending painful jolts through my body. But there was no turning back now. The moment I swiped the card and typed in the 4-digit code, the heavy metal door of box 404 popped open with a mechanical hiss. I held my breath as I stepped inside the cold storage room, sending a chill through me. It wasn't what I expected. There were no cash stacks, no jewels, no hidden treasures. Instead, there was only a manila envelope sitting quietly in the corner of the box, as if waiting for me. I tore it open without thinking, the paper crinkling under my fingers. Inside was a life insurance policy, one that had been taken out by my father years ago, separate from the estate. I felt a rush of disbelief. The beneficiary wasn't Isabelle. It wasn't the family business. It was me. $300,000. The number on the policy made my heart race. $300,000. It was more than I had ever dreamed of, and yet at the same time it felt so hollow. I wasn't just looking at money. I was looking at a lifeline, a chance to escape, a way to start over, to finally break free from the suffocating grip of my family's chaos. But there was more. I called the insurance agent immediately. My hands shook as I held the phone to my ear, still processing everything. "Miss Sterling," the agent's voice said, lowering to a whisper as though he feared someone might be listening. "I'm so relieved you called. Your sister Isabelle tried to claim this policy yesterday." He went on describing how she had aggressively pursued the money even before our parents' bodies had grown cold. The revelation hit me like a punch in the gut. Isabelle had tried to steal from me. She had tried to take what was rightfully mine before the dust had even settled. But the policy was ironclad. It was mine, and no one, especially Isabelle, could take it from me. "When can I access the funds?" I asked, my voice trembling as I clutched the policy to my chest. "Since the coroner's report is already filed," the agent said, "I can process it today. But due to anti-money laundering regulations, it will take 3 business days to clear." 3 days. I didn't have 3 days. I didn't even have $3. But I had something better now. I had leverage. I had the power to turn the tables, to control the situation. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. This wasn't just about money. This was my ticket out. This was my chance to take control. The cards had finally fallen into place, and now I could use them to rewrite everything. I wasn't just going to let Isabelle walk away with everything. She had made it clear that she was willing to destroy our family for her own gain, and now it was time for me to turn the tables. With $300,000 in my hands, I had the resources to do something far more powerful than just walk away. I was going to make sure Isabelle learned the hard way that her reckless actions had consequences. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I wasn't just going to use the money to disappear. No, I was going to use it as leverage. I needed a plan, something foolproof that would force Isabelle into a position where she couldn't lie her way out. I spent the next few days creating a business from scratch, a fake one, a shell company. I bought a shelf company called M Capital Partners, a firm that had been sitting dormant for years in Delaware. It was perfect. It looked legitimate but had zero activity. In the corporate world, it was like a clean slate, waiting for someone to breathe life into it. I built a website. Sleek, minimalistic, professional, everything Isabelle would expect a real investment firm to have. I designed it to look intimidating, cold, even something that would make her take notice. Then, I created a LinkedIn profile for the chairman using a stock photo of an older man who looked rich, experienced, and completely uninterested in anything except business. I knew Isabelle wouldn't be able to resist. She had always craved validation, the kind of recognition that made her feel like she was part of the elite. And that's exactly what I was going to give her on my terms. Once everything was in place, I sent her an email, a formal letter of intent disguised as an offer from M Capital Partners, claiming we had identified her property as a high potential asset. I offered her a bridge loan to restructure her debt to help expand her failing spa business. The email was precise, official, everything she wanted to hear. Isabelle had no idea that she was walking right into my trap. She didn't even question the legitimacy of the offer. All she saw was the dollar amount, the validation, the lifeline. She didn't hesitate. Within an hour, I had a response from her, short and direct. "I'm interested. When can we meet?" It was as easy as I thought it would be, but I wasn't done yet. I needed her to make the next move. The real test was coming. I replied as the assistant to the chairman, stating that due diligence was required before any meetings could happen. I asked her to send over her tax returns and current financials to prove her solvency. Hours later, I received the documents. As I opened them, I could barely contain my satisfaction. Isabelle had sent over falsified financials. The revenue was inflated by 300%, expenses were slashed, and everything screamed desperation. She thought she had found a golden ticket, but in reality, she had just handed me the evidence I needed to destroy her. She had committed federal wire fraud, and I now held all the cards. Isabelle was too blinded by her own vanity, too desperate to save face to see that she was walking straight into the trap I had set for her. The conference room was cold, stark, and sterile, designed to intimidate. The rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the city outside blurred into a wash of gray and gold. I wasn't just sitting at that table anymore. I was in complete control. Isabelle didn't know it yet, but the moment she stepped into that room, she had already lost. She arrived late, shaking off the rain from her umbrella like she always did, like she had somewhere more important to be. But this time the arrogance in her step didn't match the reality she was about to face. I watched from the adjacent office, the security feed showing her confidence crumble the moment she saw Mr. Vance standing by the window. He had been the one who had always kept the business running, the one who had written our parents' wills. And now he was the one standing between Isabelle and the life she had stolen from me. Isabelle's shock was palpable as she tried to dismiss him, but Mr. Vance didn't flinch. He didn't flinch when she insulted him. He didn't flinch when she tried to pretend she was still in control. And then, when I walked in, I saw the recognition in her eyes. She knew. This was no longer about money or her image. This was about facing the consequences of her actions. "What are you doing here?" She snapped, her voice cracking. I looked at her calmly. "I'm the one who bought your debt. You just sold your parents' house to me." She laughed, thinking it was a joke, but I could see her confidence begin to falter. I slid the falsified financial documents in front of her. 3 sets of books, inflated revenue, fake expenses, federal wire fraud. She had no choice but to sit there completely exposed. Isabelle signed the papers defeated, knowing she couldn't escape the trap she'd walked right into. And for the first time, I felt free. I had balanced the books, regained control of my life, and removed the toxic presence that had haunted me for so long. There was no more Isabelle, only the sound of justice, final and irrevocable. What do you think of Manfred's journey and his ultimate triumph? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Leave a comment below, and let's talk about how far someone will go when pushed to the edge. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. There's always more to uncover, and I can't wait to share it with you.